Hey everybody, this is Grateful Futures here. It's been a bit since I made a video, so I have a long list of topics to get to with you guys. I wanted to start with the one that I think is probably the most important, kind of a new cutting edge tool that we've been using to have some really great wins day trading in the market. So I'll cut to the chase. The tool that I want to show you guys is called volume delta flow, and you can access this tool on many different platforms. There's a different kind of profile tool that will give you the volume delta. The one that I've personally been using and the one I really like is this one on TradingView from Lux Algo called Delta Flow Profile, and you can access that just by going to the indicators. Delta Flow Profile by Lux Algo. Really great script writer. So if you initially put this on the chart, it's going to give you on the left-hand side this delta profile, and on the right, it's kind of just like a very complicated um, volume profile that is like normalized. I don't use this part. I really only use the volume delta over here. So I'll go ahead and just delete that and show you guys my personal settings when using this for day trading. So I've done a lot of back testing on this, and I've found that it works best for me as a day trader on a 2 minute chart. 1 minute was a little bit noisy. 2 minute is absolutely perfect. So how it works is it takes a number of trailing bars for look back to consider. I personally set this to 200. You can use 250. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure you're having the volume from the current session and not any from the previous session, because we're interested in the current day's volume delta. So this is what I use, the delta profile instead of bipolarity, just the buying and selling pressure. I turn off this level of significance, which is just the point of control. And I already said 200. I use 25 for number of rows. You can kind of use this to your liking, but somewhere between 20 and 35 is probably going to be the sweet spot. And everything, the rest is kind of just cosmetic. So that is the settings that I use. Now let's talk a little bit about what it actually shows. So these bars here on the left are the cumulative volume delta over different price ranges. And what is volume delta, right? How does that differ from just your regular volume profile like this? So a volume profile, as we've discussed in pretty much every video that I've done, is just a cumulative volume over different price ranges. So this delta does pretty much the same thing. It's just instead of looking at volume for buy and sell, it's looking at the difference across all of these candles at those price ranges, buying minus selling volume. So bid and ask volume. So this is really just showing the buying pressure at these different price ranges, and this can give you really helpful information as to what price levels are being accumulated, what price levels are support and resistance, and I'll show you guys exactly how I use this, combining the volume profile tool with the delta flow profile. So this is just going to go ahead and do a market replay of the S&P 500 or SPY, and we can just kind of show you how I will actually use this indicator. So basically the blue just means that's heavy buying pressure, the red means heavy selling pressure, and that's really pretty much it. So if we go ahead and click through, let's actually maybe change this to, yeah, that's fine. That's just aftermarket the night before. So when the day starts, you'll see that it's right here is 9:30. It'll start to give kind of a much more variable delta versus pre-market, because the pre-market's very low volume. So we want to consider mainly the in-market volume and how the price reacts. Right now, I never really give too much weight to the first 5 minutes of the market. That's kind of that's just kind of widely variable, just because there's a lot of volatility and overnight orders going through at the open. But right here we can see something kind of interesting, right? What I want you to do if you use this tool is use a traditional volume profile like this one right here, and look to find, just like we have in many other videos, look at the important levels. Those important levels are going to be the low volume nodes, right? Like right here. We'll make that a yellow. That's already yellow, perfect. And then the point of control. And those are kind of the important parts of the volume profile, right? Point of control is the most heavily traded price range, and the low volume nodes are the least traded, which can kind of act as pivot points or price ranges that price moves quickly through. Now, there's something interesting that you can see comparing the delta flow profile to the volume profile and looking at the low volume node above this low volume node. So up here, if you look at the profile of the delta flow, you can see above this low volume node, there was a lot of buying pressure. And below the low volume node, you can see there's a lot of selling pressure right at open. So, what does that tell me? That tells me that if price was to retrace to this, it's going into an area of heavy selling pressure. So if I start to see some resistance, then probably sells are going to dominate, right? Because this is already known to have a lot of selling pressure for now. If price gets above this, we'd be going into an area of heavy buying pressure. So if we see some support above that, likely we might catch some more buys, knowing that there's been buys there before. But right now we're below this low volume node, so we have to kind of consider that this is some significant selling pressure going on right here. And I do believe that it just kind of, kept tanking down. So that shows you that there's lots of selling pressure in this general price range of these red delta flow bars, you could say, the price range of those bars. So let's go ahead and keep going through it. I haven't even taken a trade at this point. There's something else kind of interesting that we can see now. There's kind of a little bit of a break now in this delta flow profile. Now there's this area right here of heavy selling pressure. And then there's also this area right here where we're starting to get some buys come into the market. So that kind of signals, maybe a little bit of a bottom here for right now. And you can, let me click through it a little bit more because actually I think the point of control flips down to this kind of middle area. And this makes sense, right? Above the point of control, that's your point of control is your most heavily traded price. That's kind of what we consider fair value of this price range. So if you get above the fair value, most likely sellers are going to try to sell it down to at least the point of control to that fair value. If you get below the fair value, most likely buyers are going to think it's a good deal and try to press up. So you can almost use the delta flow profile to see basic concepts of a regular volume profile as it is. So what can we see from this chart right here right now? So just like I said, in this box up here, I'm going to go ahead and make it red, just like I would during normal trading, to signify that in this area, there is some kind of selling pressure, right? And then down in this box, there's some kind of buying pressure. Let's make that a little bit brighter, right? Red and blue, it's good colors, Grateful Dead. So, what can we say using this? And we can kind of maybe, if you want to be a little more selective, this is kind of a big range, right? Only take the most significant candles. So those are the highest selling pressure here. And let's actually make this a little more, a little more specific to the highest buying candles. We can see that if price were to go up here, most likely it's going to catch some sells. If price comes down here, most likely it's going to catch some buys. So we can start to make a trade plan, right? Since the momentum right now is down, we're starting to make lower lows, potentially lower highs. You want to be maybe a little bit more biased to the sell side, especially since we're under a volume weighted average price, VWAP, this blue dotted line here. And what can we say as like a trade plan right now? So if price comes up here, starts wicking down, making a micro lower low, maybe we can take this trade short down into the buy pressure area like this, and have our maybe our stop loss above whatever recent high it is. That makes sense based on one our mainly our delta flow profile, and that would make sense considering it's a fail of VWAP as well. And there is also like a low volume node here. Let's go ahead and mark that off as well. Our low volume node right here. So, right, if price maybe breaks below this, or we see it start to accumulating more cells, these start getting more red up here, and we start to see failure of price, that makes sense that we could take that trade short. Let's go ahead and just see how this volume, the delta flow profile evolves, and I'll show you guys exactly, what I would do during an actual day of trading. So again, catching more cells in this area right here. These bars, these red bars are getting more red. Price does move up into it, and you can even see that when price moves up into there, it starts to wick back down. That's more evidence of selling pressure happening in that area. And it would, get more intense, the selling pressure, the closer we get to this low volume node. Definitely if it hits that low volume node and starts to come down, that would be really good evidence that there is, lots of selling pressure there, probably a good place to take a trade. But I just want to show you guys how these delta flow profiles evolve throughout the session. So price comes up into it, wicks back down, price comes into this blue area, pops back up, goes into the sell pressure area, comes back down, and you guys can start to see the ebb and flow of where the buyers and the sellers are accumulating their positions. So this is a good probably opportunity right here. You see it pop into that really heavy sell zone right here. So this is probably a good place to take a short trade if you get close enough to that wick. Let's go ahead and see how this would have played out. Price comes up, fails VWAP exactly right there, coming out of this heavy sell zone. And that was my first trade of the day here. So I took this trade short when I saw this fail VWAP, fail the out of the heavy red delta flow area. And we could definitely take this down to here, maybe leave a little bit on to see if we get a break lower, and just showing you how this trade plays out. And another thing I do want to show is that these bars are getting bigger when the candle wicks up into there, more cells are getting accumulated. Now when price goes down into this blue area, you can see that those blue bars are actually diminishing, right? Sellers are actually starting to take over in what was the buyer demand zone. So that's a good indication that this trade is going to continue short at least for a little bit longer. You can see some buys are coming back into the markets, but ultimately these sellers prevail, pushing it, breaking through that low of the day. And this trade was good for, definitely through our price target there. So that would be the first trade of the day for me. Now you can also use this if you do see the blue bars start to build back up. That could be a good indication that, maybe, hey, buyers are coming back into the market down here at this price range, and we're still technically above our low of pre-market. So that would kind of indicate going to be a higher low from, pre-market overall, even though we saw that there was this period of sellers taking over here. So buyers are starting to make these bars, a lot bigger. I'll delete that so you guys can see. Our volume profile's filling up. This low volume node's not really a low volume node anymore, and we're back to attacking VWAP. So definitely out of any kind of short position by this time, and we can start to make another plan, right? So if buyers are coming back into the market, let's mark off what are some really probable areas that we could look to see if buyers are coming back in. Let's go ahead and mark off our heaviest buying pressure areas. That would be this one right here from this really heavy buying node. And we still do have this selling pressure up here, right? So we would only want to accumulate this if price retraces and makes a wick into this heavy buying pressure zone. And still very careful because we're technically making lower lows during the session, but there's been a lot of buying pressure lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if this were to gain some buyers. But price goes up into our sell heavy area, and you can see those first sell bars start to diminish a little bit. and price retraces down. And now there's another really, really heavy buying area right here. So that's a good indication that buyers are coming back into the market. Price is coming to attack VWAP. It's wicking down into these really heavy buy zones now. If price were to come up here, I would probably be okay trying my hand on a long trade with a close stop under this bar here, making sure that we do get some buyers actually coming into the market. So this was a crazy impulse candle. If you were in and you had your price target somewhere above or at the open or high of day, then you would have come out big there. But that's not always my favorite candle to see. I don't even think I took this trade. I just kind of want to show you guys how the delta flow profile evolves throughout the day. So basically, sellers trying to sell this back down. These red delta flow profile columns are still pretty heavy. So in this price range, there's still a lot of sellers, or there was previously a lot of sellers, but price is moving up anyway. So that's another indication that is kind of good. If there was an area of heavy selling pressure and price is now getting above that, then that's, we all have heard the term previous resistance becomes new support. That's super true. And you can also use these red columns as support only if price breaks through it and is now using it as support. So let's go ahead and just see what happens above that. We can see buying pressure coming into the market. So there's definitely buyers coming in here. Um, and then let's see what happens. So even above this area, there's a little bit of buyer accumulation going on right here. Let's just mark that off and see if we can see price wicking into that to catch new buyers. Price goes into that, wicks up. Price goes into that, wicks up. And at this point right here, after seeing these consecutive wicks, these buying pressure columns getting a little bit bigger, I'd say that's probably a good indication that this is a price range that's being accumulated. So at this point, I would go ahead and feel safe probably taking a long trade off of this, seeing that it's popping into that area and coming out. If you get as close as you possibly can to that, then something like this, you could put your stop below one of these candles, below the buy pressure zone. That's perfectly fine. And then you can go ahead and maybe look for the top of this wick or whatever you want to take. If you just want to take a 1 to 1.5, that's fine. But this is just evidence that this price range right here with these candles, that is a price that's for sure being accumulated by buyers. So let's go ahead and play this out and see what happens. Another cool thing you can look at is just take a regular, like we've done many, many times, fixed range volume profile and see what is the profile of this little chunk of uptrend looking like. And you can even see that price is now bouncing off of the point of control of this consolidation range right here. So that's another great indication that most likely this is going to go ahead and move up out of this range for additional confirmation. Let's go ahead and pull that back in view. And this immediately catches more buyers and pushes up out of this little mini consolidation range here. And this was a crazy run this day, but great example of how you can use this delta flow profile to your advantage. Here's another area you can see this big pressure uh, buying pressure zone come into the market. Price has come down to that, wicked up, come down to that, and started to wick up. This is another, this is pretty significant here. If you haven't made your money by this time, this might be another good opportunity to go long here, just kind of proving this is new support. It's also a low volume node on the session profile. Let's go ahead and mark that off. So right here, right, there's a low volume node, which we know acts as support. Above that, there's known buying pressure. Same thing for down here. There's this low volume node, the one we just did. Above it, there is known buying pressure, giving you that additional confidence to go ahead and go long. You have the support of the buying pressure. You have the support of the low volume node. This is definitely, both of these are great opportunities. You could take this trade long as well. Put your stop loss below that low volume node, and maybe this one, since it's already gone pretty far, I'd probably only go for the right below highs of the day. But let's see if this went ahead and played out. And see how again it wicks into that area, catches those buys, pushes back up to form a bullish hammer candle, and this was another major win there. So that is this day broken down using this delta flow profile. You can read how the buying or selling pressure looks at those traditional volume profile levels, the low volume nodes, the point of control, to get a much better insight into what's actually happening throughout the day. So definitely a tool I would say go ahead and definitely add this to your chart. Keep in mind, I find it best on a 2-minute chart, but you guys can go ahead and do your experimenting yourselves. I wanted to show you another day. This was today's trading. Now it was FOMC, so it's a little bit, a little bit shaky towards the end of the day, but you can also see some really, really good stuff on uh, the day's trading using this delta flow profiles. Let's go ahead and just kind of show you. I only took one trade today. I don't usually trade too much during FOMC, but this was also really, really pretty. Most trades become pretty easy when combining volume profile with the delta flow. So let's go ahead and see what we can see here. Basically, again, this profile, the point of controls right here. Above the point of control, or let's do below first. Below the point of control, we have this area of buying pressure. Oh, it's the fill that's supposed to be blue there. And then above the point of control, we have this area of selling pressure. So, we can kind of say probably if price drifts up here, it's going to come back down. As long as these candles remain blue, or the bars remain blue, that price level is going to act as support, and it might just bounce around there. But you can use these to kind of identify where you're looking for buyers or sellers to come into the market at any given time. So price does pop up above it, but is immediately brought back down with pretty heavy sell volume. I'm going to go ahead and only use the two heaviest uh, columns price range to get an idea of where I'm looking for sellers to come back into the market. Price comes down into that buyer zone, wicks up, comes down, and there's also another little buyer pressure candle down here. I'll use that to encompass the full area where I feel like buyers or sellers probably will come into the market. A little bit of a point of control shift down, and you can see prices kind of bouncing off of VWAP here. But again, I probably wouldn't take this trade just based off the bounce of VWAP, because we know there's buying pressure here. So let's go ahead and just see what happens. So it bounces up out of our buying pressure zone. Sellers are starting to come in more heavy here. Now, this is really our selling pressure zone. This is, pretty good opportunity. I feel like you can see the buyers are starting to diminish. We can pull that down here. We get a pretty strong wick whenever we come into this zone. Price is already pretty overbought, so this could be a good area to test a short right here. I actually did take this, knowing that, hey, if it comes up above this, that's fine. It's whatever. I'll take the loss. But we're below VWAP. We know that the sellers are have more pressure than the buyers. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a win here on this trade. And I actually took this with the target of the pre-market low, so it was something like this. And I actually added here when it came uh, back into that selling pressure range. I'm going to go ahead and only use the two largest red volume flow candles or delta flow candles. Price comes back down into our buying pressure zone, and we can see that these buying levels are starting to diminish. Sellers are very strong up in this area, and this is definitely a good indication if you're short at this time. Uh, Price really rips down. I think actually I was out of the trade right there, and that was my only trade today. But you can even see that lots of different areas that you can actually find this applicable. There's a low volume node right here. Let's mark that off there. Price comes back up, tests the point of controls right here now. It tests the point of control, gets in, almost into that heavy selling pressure area. That point of control's right at VWAP. You could have taken this short. Sorry, I deleted that. You could have taken this one short as well, knowing that it was the point of control. It was also VWAP, wicking into that heavy selling pressure area. That's a good area to take a trade short. I didn't personally take this. I don't like to trade too much on um, the rate decision day for FOMC, but I'll show you how it played out. It went pretty well, hit pretty much lows of the day, and then came down to test that low volume node. Could have left my original price target in there, but it's fine. I don't like to leave the trade in too long. But just showing you guys how these volume flow, um, the delta volume flow indicator changes throughout the day, and how you guys can go ahead and use that. Price comes back up here. Again, tests VWAP, hips right into that heavy sell zone. Again, also the point of control. And it's another area where, you probably could have taken a short trade here just based on uh, the indicator that we're using. And it ended up working out really, really well. So just got to monitor where and then that's the FOMC, which also tipped right into that heavy selling pressure area. But go ahead and identify the areas that or at least have had heavy buying or selling pressure. Use that in combination with your low volume nodes and your point of control to try to see where, you know, buyers or sellers are coming into the market. Keep in mind, definitely also keep in mind market structure, higher highs, lower lows. But this is a tool that will allow you to give a little bit of extra layer of depth to your trading and to kind of see through another window of um, where the buying and selling is actually taking place. So go ahead and definitely throw this on a chart. I hope you guys found this useful. If you guys have questions or want to learn more about trading one-on-one, I have a small Discord that I personally am in every day. We do live coaching, live trading analysis. You guys can see my trades. This is not like a paid Discord. This is all free. I do this out of the open source spirit of trading, help you guys out. I love teaching, so if you guys want to get in there, the Discord link is in my bio, and I hope you guys got something from this. Hit me up, love to see you in the Discord. Happy trading.